Next, let's make the decorations. The decorations are divided into facial features, ingots, collars, wealth-attracting tags, and paw seams. We'll start with the facial features. The facial features include the eyes, nose, lip line, whiskers, and ears. Among these, the ears need to be crocheted. The eyes are made by gluing non-woven piece. The rest are embroidered using corresponding yarn. Let's start with crocheting. Then, we'll attach and embroider them separately. We'll begin with the ears. There are 2 in total. Each ear is divided into the inner ear and outer ear. Crochet them separately first, then assemble them. Here, the outer ear uses the magic ring method. Crochet in rounds. No new stitches or methods are used. You can directly follow the chart for crocheting. Pay attention to leave a tail of corresponding length for sewing. Next, I'll explain the inner ear. It starts with a magic ring, then crochet back and forth. Pick up the corresponding yarn. Start with the magic ring technique. Then make a turning chain. Crochet 3 single crochets. Close the ring. There's no need to join with the first stitch using a slip stitch here. At this point, the first row is complete. Continue with the second row. Start with 1 chain. Below, the table shows turn. This means you need to turn your work. Turn the piece over. Then insert the hook into the single crochets from the previous row. When crocheting on the wrong side of the previous row, the stitches are located at the top left. Pick up each stitch and crochet SC2 in 1 correspondingly. After completion, do not join with a slip stitch. At this point, the second row is complete. Move on to the third row. Start with 1 chain. Turn the work. Pick up the stitches from the left. Crochet 2 single crochets evenly into each stitch. Make 1 SC2 in 1. Then work 2 chains. Continue picking up stitches, and make 1 SC2 in 1. Work 2 single crochets. At this point, the stitch pattern in the chart is completed. If sewing is required during assembly, leave a 15 cm yarn tail before cutting the yarn. If glue will be used for attachment, simply cut the yarn. At this point, the third row is complete. That concludes the explanation of crocheting the inner ear. Next, we will assemble it. Here, I'll demonstrate the method using a small sample. Pick up 1 inner ear and 1 outer ear. Match up the shapes of the 2 pieces. Place them so their triangular shapes align. The edges of the inner ear and outer ear should roughly correspond. Make sure the neat side of the texture from row 3 of the inner ear faces forward. The yarn tail remaining from the magic ring of the inner ear can be cut off and placed at the back. You can also weave it directly inside the piece. Flatten the outer ear along one end of the yarn tail. If you choose to use glue, apply it directly to the wrong side of the inner ear. Press until it's securely glued. Below, I'll demonstrate the method for sewing with yarn. Use the reserved yarn from the inner ear and thread the needle. Then pick up a point on the wrong side of the inner ear, near the edge, and sew together roughly corresponding areas of the outer ear. Be mindful not to pass through to the back of the outer ear. Only sew the side that's in contact. There's no strict requirement for the method, as long as it's secure and looks nice. Once done, tie a few knots with the yarn. The remaining yarn tail can be woven inside the piece. Alternatively, you can weave it directly into the outer ear. Everyone can finish this on their own. At this point, one inner ear and one outer ear are assembled. Everyone can follow the same method. Complete the assembly of the remaining inner ears and outer ears. Once done, set them aside for now. Next, we'll make the eyes. First, pick up the paper pattern. Cut out the section for the eyes. Then place it on top of the non-woven piece, and cut it out. Everyone can finish this step on their own. There are a total of 2 eyes here. After cutting, do not glue them on yet. Set aside for now. Next, we'll start installing and embroidering the facial features. Before installation, you need to outline the eye sockets first. Here, I'm demonstrating with a sample. Use the color from the last few rounds of the head. Take a long tail, thread the needle, then find the spot right in front of the color change area on the head. Count 7 rows down from the top. Identify the middle 8 stitches. Then pick up the position of 2 stitches next to it, and insert the needle respectively. Start from the center bottom of the head's back. Insert the needle at the position where it will be sewn to the body. Bring the thread to the corresponding position. Begin by leaving a little yarn tail. Then bring the thread to the position of the chain space next to the starting yarn tail. At this point, pull both threads to the back. If there are any dents in other areas, flatten them first with the needle. When there are still dents, you can bring the thread again and tighten the eye socket. This way, the eye socket is formed. Then tie a knot with the 2 yarn tails to secure it. Weave the remaining yarn tails, and the knot inside the piece. Everyone can finish it on your own. At this point, the eye socket is done. Then attach the eyes in the eye socket position. Above the eye socket, place them along the curve. Here, the position and shape can be referenced from the finished product. You can also adjust according to your preference. Then use glue to secure it firmly. This way, one side of the eye is attached. Attach the other side in the same way. Everyone can finish it on your own. Next, embroider the nose. Between the 2 eyes, find the centered position at the 7th row of color change. Embroider a triangle. Here, the top of the triangle spans 2 holes horizontally. Insert the hook into a relatively centered hole below. Then stitch in a vertical line segment. First, pick up the corresponding color yarn. Cut a long piece of yarn. Then remove 2 strands. Pull out 1 strand at a time here. Afterwards, thread the needle with the yarn. At the corresponding position, embroider the outline of a triangle first. Start by leaving a little bit of yarn tail. Check if the position fits properly at this point. Then stitch vertically. Embroider this area fully. After completing the embroidery, thread the needle to the starting yarn tail position. Here, go through the hole below and thread it to the starting yarn tail. This makes the effect more aesthetically pleasing. If the marked lines from the embroidery above are too noticeable, you can embroider horizontally 1-2 times at the top. Tie the 2 yarn tails into a knot and secure it. If the remaining yarn tail is long, continue embroidering the lip line. If the yarn tail is short, weave the yarn tail inside the piece. Then rejoin the yarn and embroider the lip line. Here, I will continue to embroider the lip line downward. Embroider a vertical line below the nose that takes up 1 row. Then embroider a horizontal line to the left that spans 2 holes. After that, embroider a diagonal line in the lower right that occupies 1 row. Finally, bring the yarn back to the starting point. Tie the last 2 yarn tails into a knot, and weave them inside the piece. Everyone can finish it on their own. That's how you embroider the lip line. Next, we'll embroider the whiskers, below the eyes. At a position 3 rounds apart. And 1 stitch apart from the outer corner of the eye. Embroider a horizontal line that spans 3 stitches outward. Then, in the row below, embroider 2 diagonal lines of approximately the same length. Use 1 strand of thread for this part. You can start by embroidering the whiskers on one side, then embroider the other side symmetrically. Everyone can finish it on their own. Finally, attach the ears. I'll continue to demonstrate using the sample. Place the inner ear facing forward. Then make sure the right side of the facial features is facing you. Start from the center of the head. Find the 4th to 13th rounds on one side. Sew the ear between these rounds. Match up the bottom of the ear with the corresponding position on the head and sew them together. There's no specific requirement for the method. Just make sure it's secure and looks nice. Finally, thread the tail to the wrong side and tie a knot. You can tie multiple knots if you'd like, then weave the remaining strands inside the piece. That's how you attach one ear. Attach the other ear symmetrically using the same technique. That concludes the explanation of how to attach the ears. Lastly, below the eyes. Apply a little blush on the inner side of the whiskers. Complete this step on your own. That completes the explanation of the facial features section. Next, we'll make the ingots. There are two sizes, large and small. Make them separately and attach them. Let's start with the small ingot. Use the magic ring method. Crochet in rounds. It uses 5 new stitches. T half double crochet, FWDC 3 in 1, TVHDC 2 in 1, FADC2 tog, TA HDC2 tog. Please watch as I demonstrate. Rounds 1 to 3 do not use any new stitches. You can directly follow the chart for crocheting. I have already finished crocheting here. Next, work on the 4th round. For this round, you need to crochet into the front loops of the stitches. Start with a beginning chain, then pick up the front loop of the adjacent stitch. Make 1 single crochet, adjacent means within square brackets. Work the stitches in the brackets at the same position. Pick up the front loop, crochet 1 single crochet, work 1 half double crochet in the same position. Complete the stitch pattern in the parentheses. Next is 1 DC 3 in 1, crochet 3 double crochets into one position. Finish the DC 3 in 1. Work 1 half double crochet in the adjacent position. Make 1 single crochet. Then correspondingly crochet 3 single crochets. Work 1 single crochet in the adjacent position. Crochet 1 half double crochet. Continue with 1 DC 3 in 1. After completing, pick up the adjacent position, and work 1 half double crochet. Make 1 single crochet. Then evenly crochet 2 single crochets. Finally, pick up the first stitch, and join with a slip stitch. Tighten. The 4th round is completed. Continue to the 5th round. Start with a beginning chain. Then pick up stitches, and correspondingly make 2 single crochets. 1 half double crochet. Next, you need to work a HDC 2 in 1. Pick up 1 stitch position and work 2 half double crochets. Complete the HDC 2 in 1. Continue with another 2 HDC 2 in 1. For the rest, refer to the chart to crochet. After finishing, slip stitch on the first stitch. Pull tight. The 5th round is completed. Next, crochet the 6th round. The chart shows BLO. It means work into the back loop only. Start with a beginning chain. Then pick up the back loop of the stitch to the left. Work 1 single crochet. Continue picking up the back loops of adjacent stitches. Work 1 single crochet. For the remaining, pick up each back loop, refer to the chart and crochet the corresponding stitches. After completing, slip stitch into the first stitch. Tighten. The 6th round is complete. Move on to the 7th round. Start with a beginning chain, then pick up stitches and correspondingly make 2 single crochets. 2 half double crochets. 1 double crochet. Work a DC2 tog for adjacent stitches. Pick up the stitch to the left, and work an unclosed double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through, then yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. There are 2 loops left on the hook. This is an unclosed double crochet. Work another unclosed double crochet for the adjacent stitch. Now there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through the remaining loops in once. That completes the DC2 tog. Continue following the chart. Work until you reach the next DC2 tog position. Once you've reached the corresponding position, start crocheting the DC2 tog. Pick up each stitch, crochet 2 unclosed double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops on the hook. This completes the DC2 tog. Continue crocheting while referring to the chart. Finally, join with a slip stitch in the first stitch. Pull tight. The 7th round is completed. Now move on to the 8th round. Start with 2 chains. These 2 chains count as 1 half double crochet. At the same time, the beginning chain corresponds to the single crochet below. Pick up the next stitch on the left side. Work 1 half double crochet. Continue picking up stitches. Crochet half double crochets correspondingly into each stitch. Finish with the last stitch. On the second chain of the beginning chain, pick up 2 strands and work a slip stitch to join. Pull tight. The 8th round is completed. Now move on to the 9th round below. Start with 2 chains. This also counts as 1/2 double crochet. Then pick up the next stitch on the left. Work 1/2 double crochet. Here, the stitch may be slightly puckered. Pick up the top 2 strands and insert the hook, then crochet accordingly. Move on to work a HDC2 tog. First, pick up the stitch on the left, and work an unclosed half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and draw through. There are 3 loops on the hook. This is the unclosed half double crochet. Work another unclosed half double crochet in the adjacent stitch. Now there are 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through in once. Complete the HDC2 tog. Continue to work 4 half double crochets correspondingly. Then work a HDC2 tog. First, work 2 unclosed half double crochets. Finally, yarn over and draw through all loops in once. Complete the HDC2 tog. For the rest, continue following the chart for crocheting. Finish with the last stitch. On the second chain of the beginning chain, pick up 2 strands and work a slip stitch to join. Pull tight. The 9th round is completed. Continue with the 10th round. Start with 1 chain. Then work 3 single crochets evenly. Here, the first stitch is worked into the previous round's beginning chain, that is, the hole where the slip stitch was inserted before. Afterwards, pick up stitches, and continue crocheting. For the rest, continue following the chart for crocheting. Finally, work a slip stitch into the first stitch. Pull tight. The 10th round is completed. Next, work the final round. Start with a beginning chain, then work SC2 tog evenly. Lastly, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Pull tight. Then leave a 30 cm tail for closing and sewing. Finally, stuff in an appropriate amount of stuffing. There's no need to stuff the first 3 rounds. Push it down to make an indentation. Then fill the remaining part. Everyone can finish this on their own. Finally, let's shape it a bit. The ingot shape isn't very obvious here. We can take the crocheting yarn. Take a long tail. Thread it into a needle. Then pick up the gap in the stitches from round 3 or round 4. Pass through the center a few times. Repeat this process to secure one round. Afterwards, tie the 2 yarn tails, and weave them inside the piece. Everyone can finish this on their own. Finally, close the opening. Everyone can finish this on their own. This way, the small ingot is done. Then proceed with assembling. Place the ingot under your left hand. Secure the position of the upper part here to the inside of the hand. Fix the part that touches the body below. You can use the yarn from the ingot. Pick 2 contact areas and sew them together to secure. Alternatively, you can use glue to attach it. Everyone can finish this on their own. This concludes the explanation of the small ingot section. Next, we will make and assemble the large ingot. The large ingot is divided into 2 parts here, the bottom and the top. Crochet the 2 parts separately. After completion, assemble them together. There are no new stitches or methods used in this piece. Everyone can directly refer to the chart and correspondingly crochet. After crocheting the bottom part, leave a proper length of yarn tail. After finishing the top part, you can break the yarn. Then stuff both pieces with an appropriate amount of stuffing. Afterwards, proceed with the assembly. Here, I will demonstrate the assembly. Here, I'm demonstrating with a sample. Place the top part inside the bottom part. Then find 2 stitches that are relatively centered on the bottom. Also find 2 stitches on the top part that are relatively centered on the side. These 2 stitches correspond to the 2 stitches on the bottom. Then count to the first stitch of the last round on the bottom. Find the corresponding 1 stitch on the top. Match the side with the slip stitch marks. Then pick the corresponding stitch positions from the bottom and the top. Insert the hook and sew once. Afterwards, use the whip stitch method to sew together. Pick and sew together the corresponding stitches on the edges of both pieces. Finish sewing the last stitch. Pick the starting position and thread the needle through once again. Then tie off the yarn tail, and weave it inside the piece. Everyone can complete this step on their own. At this point, the large ingot is done. Finally, proceed with the assembly. Place it between the top of the head and the ears. Position it horizontally here. Then take a long tail of the same color yarn. Sew a few stitches where the bottom touches the top of the head. You can also use glue to secure it firmly. There's no specific requirement for the installation method. As long as it's secure and looks nice, that's fine. Everyone can complete this step on their own. This concludes the explanation of the ingot section. Next, we'll make the collar. Start by crocheting the collar, then sew the bell onto the front. Finally, proceed with the installation. Here, we use a foundation chain to start the collar. Then crochet a row of single crochets along the foundation chain. After finishing this part, you need to check the size. Wrap the piece around the neck once. It shouldn't be too loose or too tight. As long as it fits well and looks nice, that's fine. If the size doesn't fit, you can adjust the number of stitches according to the actual situation and crochet again. After crocheting, leave a 10 cm yarn tail and break the yarn. Everyone can refer to the chart and complete it on your own. After completion, attach the bell. Here we use the yarn for crocheting. Take a long tail end, thread it into a darning needle. Then place the foundation chain side of the piece facing up. The right side of the single crochets should face you. Then fold the piece in half. Find the centered position. At the centered position, insert the needle into the picked up stitch. Sew on the bell. Start by leaving a little yarn tail. For extra security, you can sew it a few times. Finally, tie off the yarn tail. Weave the yarn tail in the wrong side of the piece. Everyone can complete it on your own. Lastly, attach it. Place the foundation chain side facing up. Position the bell right at the front. Then use the reserved yarn tail. Pick up the beginning and ending positions, sew a few stitches to secure it. Next, thread the needle through to the starting yarn tail position. Tie off the yarn tail to fix it. If you want the collar to be more secure, you can use the remaining yarn tail. Pick up the connection point between the back head and body. Tie a knot. Then weave the thread inside the piece. Everyone can weave the remaining strands inside the piece on your own. This way, the collar is attached. Next, let's make the wealth attracting tag. It is divided into the main part, the edging, and the wealth attracting character sticker. Here, there are 2 pieces for the main part. Start by crocheting them. After completing, join and crochet the edging. You also need to insert a mesh board in between. Then cut out the wealth attracting character sticker and attach it. Finally, place the wealth attracting tag in the proper position. Let's start crocheting the main part first. Start with a foundation chain, then work back and forth along the foundation chain. A new technique appears, K-skip. Please watch me demonstrate. Begin with a foundation chain. Crochet the corresponding number of chains. Then start from the second to last stitch. Pick up the top loop of the chains. Follow the chart to crochet the corresponding stitches. Finish crocheting at the last chain position. Now the first row is completed. Continue with the second row. Start with 1 chain. Turn your work. Then pick up the stitches from the previous row. Work single crochets evenly. Finish with the last stitch. Now the second row is completed. For the following 3rd to 35th rows, use the same method as the row above. Just refer to the chart and crochet. After completion, start crocheting row 36. Here, I'll demonstrate with this sample. Start with 1 chain. Turn your work. Then you'll see a K below. It means skip a stitch. When there's no number after K, it defaults to skipping 1 stitch. So, skip 1 stitch on the left without crocheting. Work into the next stitch. Crochet 14 single crochets evenly. Then skip 1 stitch and leave it unworked. Pick up the last stitch and make 1 single crochet. That concludes the method for row 36. Break the yarn. This completes the explanation of crocheting the main part. Repeat the same method to crochet another main part. Pay attention. Don't cut the yarn after finishing. Continue by crocheting the edging next. Next, I will explain how to crochet the edging. Start by cutting the mesh board first. Here, I'll demonstrate the method using a small sample. Pick up the main part with the yarn already broken. Place it on top of the mesh board. Then cut along the edge. After completing, trim the edgings a bit. Round off the corners slightly. And the main part that has been fastened off, along with the mesh board. Place the mesh board between the 2 main parts. Match up the two pieces. It doesn't matter which side of the piece faces out here. Just make sure the direction of the first row and the last row corresponds. To make it more convenient for crocheting later, you can secure the corners in place. You can use stitch markers to secure them. Or you can also use yarn tails to secure them. When securing with yarn tails here, use yarn in a different color. Cut a piece of the yarn tail. Then at the corner, insert the hook into two pieces. Tie a knot to secure it. Everyone, follow this method to secure all four corners. After securing, start crocheting. Continue with the previous yarn tail. Chain 1 is the beginning chain. Turn your work. Then pick up along the top edge on one side. This is the stitch position. Insert into the edge stitch. Crochet 1 SC2 in 1. Continue moving to the left. Pick up the top edge of two pieces and work single crochets evenly. Crochet until the last stitch position. Correspondingly make a SC2 in 1. Here, you can remove the stitch marker or yarn tail at the corner. Pick up the side edges of adjacent rows. Insert into the edge spaces or gaps. At the gap in the corner, crochet a SC2 in 1. Be mindful to weave the previous yarn tails while crocheting the edges. Continue picking up gaps and work single crochets evenly. When you reach the last gap, correspondingly make a SC2 in 1. After that, you'll reach the starting chain. Here, pick up the insertion point of the first row's stitch pattern, the remaining half side of the chain. Insert your hook and start crocheting. At the first chain, correspondingly make a SC2 in 1. Then work single crochets evenly. Keep crocheting until there is one chain left. when you reach the corresponding position. Similarly, at the last chain. Correspondingly make a SC2 in 1. Next, pick up the side gaps of each row. Insert your hook and start crocheting. At the first gap, correspondingly make a SC2 in 1. Then pick up the gaps and work single crochets evenly. Keep crocheting until you reach the position before the last gap. When you reach the corresponding position, pick up the last gap, insert your hook, and make a SC2 in 1. Then pick up the first single crochet on the left side, and join with a slip stitch. Proceed to finish off. First, enlarge the loop on the hook. Leave a little yarn tail. Then count 2 stitches to the left. Insert the hook from the back of the second stitch. Draw the reserved yarn through. Insert again into the center of the slip stitch braid from the back. Pull the yarn through. Adjust slightly. Finally, on the wrong side, work 1 chain to secure the yarn tail. This is equivalent to tying a knot. Then weave the yarn tail inside the piece. This completes the edging. Next, cut out the wealth-attracting character template. First, trim around the font following the pattern. Then place it on the non-woven piece for cutting. You can also cut directly on the non-woven piece, using the paper pattern as a guide. Be mindful of efficient use. Everyone can finish this part on their own. After completing, glue it onto the main part. Here, make sure the neat side of the textured edging faces forward. Then check the position. If it fits, you can glue it with adhesive. Everyone can complete this on their own. This concludes the section on the wealth-attracting character template. Finally, we will assemble everything. Place the sign below the right hand. Ensure the sign is facing the correct direction. Then use the color at this end of the hand. Take a long tail of yarn. Pick a position directly centered above the sign below the hand. Sew it together. There are no specific requirements for the method. Just make sure it's secure and looks nice. Everyone can complete this on their own. Then stick the hand to the head. Use the color from the area around the head. Sew a few stitches at the joint to secure it. Finally, attach the sign to part of the body. From the back side of the sign. Sew a few stitches to the corresponding position on the body. Make sure not to sew through to the front of the sign. As long as the sewing looks nice, that's fine. You can use glue first to temporarily secure the parts that need to be sewn. Once you're happy with how it looks, go ahead and sew. Everyone can complete this on their own. That concludes the explanation of the wealth attracting tag. Lastly, embroider the claw seam. Here, at the foot position. On the protruding end. Evenly embroider 3 vertical lines. First, use the corresponding color. Take a long tail. And remove 2 strands. At the center of the protruding part, embroider a vertical line that spans 2 to 3 rows. Then, on either side at a position about 2 stitches apart, embroider slightly shorter vertical lines. The exact position and length can be adjusted according to your preference. Afterward, at the front end of the hand, embroider 2 vertical lines that span 4 to 5 rows. Similarly, use the corresponding yarn, and extract 2 strands for embroidering. There should be a 3-stitch interval between the 2 lines. The specific shape and position can be adjusted according to your preference. Everyone can complete it on their own. That concludes the explanation of how to embroider the claws. Up to this point, the entire process of making the toy has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family. Supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.